Have you ever felt like you're constantly searching for something spiritual, yet no matter how many practices you try, how many books you read, or how much you meditate, you still feel like you're missing the key that unlocks true transformation? What if everything you've been taught about spiritual growth has been fundamentally backwards? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. In his final moments on earth, spiritual teacher Joel Goldsmith whispered a revelation so profound yet so simple that it contradicts virtually everything most spiritual seekers have been taught. Has this ever happened to you? You learn a spiritual principle intellectually, you understand it completely, and yet somehow you can't make it work consistently in your daily life? You're not alone. For decades, even Joel himself struggled with this disconnect between spiritual truth and practical transformation. What Joel discovered in those precious final moments was the missing link, a master key that makes every spiritual practice work effortlessly. The revelation centered around a familiar biblical phrase, "I of myself can do nothing. The Father within doeth the works." But here's the crucial difference. Joel discovered how to actually activate this principle instantly in real life, not just understand it intellectually. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you and even challenge everything you thought you knew about consciousness, healing, and spiritual growth. Joel realized that most seekers, himself included for many years, were approaching spirituality like a cosmic vending machine, putting in enough prayer, meditation, and positive thinking with the expectation of getting healing, abundance, and happiness in return. The fundamental misunderstanding that keeps so many spiritual seekers trapped is this idea that we need to use consciousness to get something from God. We believe we're separate from what we seek, and that through spiritual effort we might eventually reach it. But what if the truth is actually the complete opposite? What if you don't need to become more spiritual because you already are the very spirituality you've been seeking? What if you don't need to attract abundance because you already are infinite supply expressing? What if you don't need to heal because you already are perfect life itself? This complete reversal of understanding was Joel's ultimate revelation, one that transformed not only his own experience, but also the lives of thousands who applied it. And the most extraordinary part, this shift in consciousness doesn't require years of spiritual practice, perfect faith, or special qualifications. It requires only one thing: the willingness to stop being the person who has the problem and start recognizing yourself as the consciousness that dissolves all problems naturally. But how exactly do you make this profound shift? That's where things get interesting. If you're resonating with these profound teachings about consciousness, hit that subscribe button and join our community of seekers exploring the depths of spiritual awakening together. The secret Joel discovered turns spiritual seeking completely upside down. It's not about acquiring, attracting, or achieving anything at all. It's about recognizing what has always been true about your essential nature. This revelation is the hidden truth behind every authentic spiritual teaching throughout history, though often obscured by complicated practices and intellectual concepts. Think of it this way. Imagine you're wearing glasses, but have completely forgotten you have them on. You spend years searching everywhere for these glasses, growing increasingly frustrated and desperate. Then one day, someone simply points out that they've been on your face the entire time. That moment of recognition instantly ends the search. This is exactly what happens in the journey of consciousness that Joel described. The very awareness you've been seeking through meditation, prayer, and spiritual practice is what you already are and have always been. You're not a human being who might someday become spiritual enough to experience divine consciousness. You are divine consciousness itself, having a temporary human experience. The revelation sounds deceptively simple when put into words, which is precisely why the analytical mind tends to dismiss it. That can't possibly be all there is to it, the intellect protests. Spiritual transformation must surely be more complex, require more effort, more purification, more discipline. And this very protest keeps millions trapped in endless seeking, never experiencing the freedom that comes from simple recognition. Joel discovered that behind every healing, every demonstration of abundance, every experience of deep peace is the exact same principle. You are not using consciousness as a tool to improve your life. You are consciousness itself, temporarily believing yourself to be separate from what you seek. The most surprising aspect of this mindset shift is that it works whether you fully understand it or not, whether you feel worthy or not, whether you've studied spiritual teachings for decades or just encountered them yesterday. It doesn't depend on your spiritual development or your belief system. It depends only on your willingness to experiment with recognizing your true identity as consciousness rather than as a separate person with problems to solve. Margaret, who attended one of Joel's final seminars, had suffered with chronic pain for 20 years that no medical treatment could touch. Within minutes of applying Joel's technique of shifting identity from person with pain to consciousness aware of sensation, something transformed internally. 3 days later, she woke completely pain-free for the first time in decades. The pain hadn't been healed. It had been recognized as not being part of her essential self. Now I want to go even deeper into this recognition and show you how it applies to every area of life, from health and relationships to finances and emotional well-being. The implications of this revelation are so far-reaching that they literally redefine what it means to be human. If you're starting to sense this profound truth about your own nature, write in the comments, "I am consciousness itself." The most liberating aspect of Joel's discovery is that this profound identity shift doesn't require decades of spiritual preparation, extensive knowledge of metaphysics, or achieving some mystical state of consciousness. The transformation can happen in seconds rather than lifetimes, because it's not about becoming something new, it's about recognizing what has always been true. Consider Robert, a businessman who lost everything in a financial collapse. He understood spiritual principles intellectually and could quote scripture about God's abundance, but nothing translated into practical results when creditors called and bills accumulated. When Robert learned to apply Joel's technique of shifting his identity from desperate person trying to fix circumstances to consciousness in which both prosperity and lack appear temporarily, his entire experience transformed. This mindset revolution doesn't depend on how spiritually developed you are, how consistent your meditation practice is, or even how much faith you have. That's the hidden truth that frees so many people from the endless pursuit of spiritual perfection. You don't need to be worthy of healing or abundance. You already are the very consciousness that creates, sustains, and dissolves all experiences. Think about what this means for your journey. All those moments you felt not spiritual enough, not disciplined enough, or not deserving enough. What if none of that ever mattered? What if the only barrier between you and the fullness of life has been this case of mistaken identity, believing yourself to be separate from the very consciousness you've been seeking? Behind the scenes of every authentic spiritual awakening is this same recognition. I am not this limited person with problems. I am the unlimited awareness in which all experiences arise and dissolve. This isn't positive thinking or affirmation. It's a fundamental revelation about your essential nature that changes everything once recognized. Sarah struggled with depression that medications couldn't touch and therapy couldn't permanently heal. But when she learned to stop identifying with depressed thoughts and emotions, and instead recognized herself as the awareness observing them, something remarkable happened. The depression didn't instantly vanish, but her relationship to it transformed completely. She discovered an inner stillness that no mood could disturb, the I am that exists prior to all psychological states. The impact of this recognition extends to every aspect of life: health, finances, relationships, creativity, purpose. When you stop trying to fix yourself as a limited person and start operating from your true position as consciousness itself, solutions appear that the struggling mind could never conceive. Decisions become clearer. Creativity flows naturally. Healing happens spontaneously. The real transformation isn't in changing circumstances, but in recognizing what has never changed, the pure awareness at the center of all your experiences. This awareness has never been sick, never been poor, never been afraid, never been limited in any way. Only the temporary identity of personhood experiences these conditions. Let's explore how Joel taught people to practically maintain this recognition moment by moment throughout daily life, especially when facing challenging circumstances. If you've experienced glimpses of this pure awareness beyond your personal identity, put in the comments, "I recognize my true nature." Joel's revolutionary approach to healing is powerfully illustrated through Margaret's journey. For 20 years, she carried chronic pain that no doctor could explain or heal. She had exhausted every avenue of traditional medicine, medications that stopped working, surgeries that made things worse, therapies that helped briefly before the pain returned even stronger. Her medical file was thicker than a phone book, yet her suffering remained a mystery that science couldn't solve. What happened at Joel's final seminar wasn't a new technique or another spiritual band-aid. It was a complete paradigm shift. Within minutes of learning to shift her identity from Margaret with pain to pure awareness observing sensation, something fundamental changed. Not the pain itself, that remained exactly as before, but her relationship to it transformed completely. The breakthrough wasn't about making the pain go away through affirmation or visualization. It was about recognizing that her essential self, pure awareness, could never be in pain. Only the temporary identity of Margaret could experience suffering. 3 days after this recognition took root, she woke without pain for the first time in decades. But more importantly, she had discovered who she really was, beyond all physical sensations and limitations. Subscribe now to continue your journey of consciousness recognition with more insights from Joel Goldsmith and other spiritual pioneers who discovered these transformative truths. The same principle that transformed Margaret's physical experience reshaped Robert's financial reality. After losing everything in a business collapse that destroyed his reputation and left his family facing foreclosure, Robert had tried everything from positive affirmations to visualization practices. He could quote prosperity principles by heart, but his bank account remained stubbornly empty. The catalyst for Robert's turnaround wasn't finding a magical manifestation formula. It was recognizing his true identity as consciousness itself. He stopped trying to fix his circumstances from the desperate position of a ruined businessman and started operating from his real identity as the awareness in which both prosperity and poverty appear as temporary experiences, neither touching his true, infinite nature. Within weeks, opportunities emerged seemingly from nowhere. Former clients returned with new projects. Partnerships formed naturally. But the real transformation wasn't the improving circumstances. It was Robert's unshakable peace, knowing that his true identity could never be threatened by any external condition or financial situation. The revelation behind both these transformations unveils a profound truth. Healing and abundance aren't things consciousness creates or attracts. They're what consciousness already is when not mistakenly identified with limitation. Your journey through any challenge, whether physical, financial, or emotional, is never about getting something you lack. It's about recognizing what you've always been beneath the temporary story of limitation. Let's explore the practical tools Joel developed to maintain this recognition consistently, especially during times when circumstances seem to contradict your true, unlimited nature. These aren't techniques to make problems go away. They're practices that reveal the awareness that problems can never touch. If you've experienced a moment where your perception of a problem completely shifted just by changing your relationship to it, share in the comments. I've witnessed this transformation. Emotional suffering can be just as debilitating as physical pain, as Sarah discovered through her years battling depression. Despite trying psychiatric medications, therapy, meditation, exercise, everything modern science and holistic approaches offered, she remained trapped in a mind she couldn't seem to escape or heal. The depression wasn't just sadness. It was a heavy blanket of hopelessness, making even simple daily activities feel overwhelming. The breakthrough came when Sarah learned Joel's approach to emotional freedom. Instead of identifying with the depressed thoughts and feelings as my depression or trying to fight against them, she learned to shift her awareness to the position of the observer, the consciousness that witnesses all mental states without being defined by any of them. This revelation transformed her journey instantly. The depression didn't magically disappear overnight, but her relationship to it changed completely. She discovered an inner stillness that no mood could disturb, the I am that exists prior to all psychological conditions and remains eternally free from every emotion that seems to control human experience. To help people maintain this recognition consistently, Joel developed what he called the witness position, a practical approach to living from awareness rather than personality. This isn't about detaching from life or becoming emotionally numb. It's about discovering the most intimate connection possible with experience by recognizing yourself as the very consciousness in which all experiences arise, unfold, and dissolve naturally. Try this simple practice right now. Notice that you are aware of reading these words. You're not just the thoughts about them or the person reading them, you're the awareness in which all of these appear. This awareness is your true identity, infinite, eternal, and inherently free from every limitation that seems to define human experience. The witness position creates immediate space between you and any problem or limitation. When anxiety arises, instead of being an anxious person, you recognize, I am awareness, observing anxiety appearing in consciousness. When financial worry emerges, rather than becoming identified as someone with money problems, you shift to, I am consciousness, aware of thoughts about money. This single mindset revolution transforms every challenge from something happening to you into something happening within you, within the infinite field of awareness that you are. The power of this shift lies in its simplicity. You're not adding anything new to your experience or trying to change what's happening. You're simply recognizing your true position as the awareness in which all experiences appear. The beauty of this approach is that it works in real time, in the midst of life's most challenging moments. Unlike practices that require stepping away from life to meditate or contemplate, the witness position is applicable in the middle of an argument, during financial stress, or while facing health challenges. Let's explore how this same recognition extends beyond individual experiences to transform our perception of time itself, revealing another dimension of freedom. If you've noticed yourself naturally stepping back from identifying with thoughts or emotions, even momentarily, type in the comments, I am the witness. Joel discovered that our experience of problems is fundamentally tied to our perception of time. Every worry, every fear, every sense of limitation exists only in the mental constructs of past and future, neither of which has any reality in consciousness itself. Your true nature exists in what Joel called the eternal now, a timeless awareness that transcends the linear progression of moments that seem to constitute human experience. When you shift your identity from the time-bound person to timeless awareness, something remarkable happens. Problems lose their reality and power over your experience. Think about it. Worry requires a future that doesn't actually exist except as thought. Regret requires a past that has no reality except as memory. Only now is real, and now is always perfect, complete and lacking nothing. Try this revolutionary perspective. Feel your way into this present moment so completely that past and future dissolve entirely. From this vantage point of timeless awareness, what problem could possibly exist? What fear could have any foundation when only the perfection of now is present? This isn't an intellectual exercise, but a direct recognition of your natural state of being that's always available beneath the stream of time-bound thinking. The insight behind this practice unveils a hidden truth about the nature of consciousness. You are not moving through time. Time is moving through you, through the unchanging awareness that is your essential nature. Every challenge you've ever faced exists only in the story of past and future, while your true identity remains forever untouched in the eternal now. To strengthen this recognition, Joel developed a third complementary practice he called recognition gratitude. Unlike conventional gratitude that focuses on being thankful for what you hope to receive in the future, this approach acknowledges what already is, the completeness that consciousness itself already embodies. Instead of saying, "I'm grateful that I might be healed someday," or "Thank you for the abundance that might come to me," you recognize, "I am grateful that I am perfect health itself," and "I am grateful that I am infinite supply itself." This isn't positive thinking or manifestation. It's acknowledging the truth about your essential nature as consciousness. The power of this approach is that it bypasses the usual spiritual trap of seeking to become what you already are. It establishes you immediately in the truth of your being and allows that truth to express naturally in your daily experience without force or struggle. The recognition, "I am grateful that I am unlimited love itself," isn't a hope for the future, but a fact about your present nature as consciousness. These practices work together synergistically to establish you more firmly in the recognition of your true identity. The witness position creates space between you and limiting experiences. Timeless awareness dissolves problems at their source. Recognition gratitude reveals the completeness you have always been beneath the story of seeking. Let's explore how these principles apply in the laboratory of daily life, in relationships, work, health challenges, and financial decisions, where theory meets practice and transformation becomes lived reality. If you've experienced moments of timeless awareness where problems seem to dissolve in the recognition of the eternal now, share in the comments. I live in the eternal present. Even the most profound spiritual recognition encounters moments of doubt. Joel understood this better than most and developed a revolutionary approach to doubt that transforms it from enemy to ally on the spiritual journey. Most traditions teach us to overcome, eliminate, or push away doubt, treating it as evidence of spiritual failure or lack of faith. But Joel discovered a hidden truth about doubt that changes everything. When doubt arises, and it inevitably will, don't try to fight it or convince yourself it's wrong through positive affirmations. Instead, simply notice, I am aware of doubt arising in consciousness. This subtle but profound perspective shift is revolutionary because it immediately returns you to your true position as awareness rather than keeping you identified with the doubting mind. The insight here reveals a breakthrough in spiritual practice. Doubt actually serves an essential purpose in consciousness recognition. It shows you precisely where you're still identified with the person mind, rather than resting in your true nature as awareness itself. Each moment of doubt becomes a doorway back to recognition, rather than an obstacle to it. Behind the scenes of every spiritual journey is this dance between recognition and forgetting, between resting as awareness and getting caught in identification with thoughts and experiences. The challenge isn't to eliminate forgetting, but to use each instance as an invitation to remember what you really are. This approach transforms your relationship to spiritual practice completely. Instead of striving for perfection, you welcome every experience as part of the journey of consciousness knowing itself. The true revolution in Joel's teaching was his emphasis on integrating this recognition into everyday life, rather than reserving it for special meditation sessions or retreats. Consciousness recognition becomes most powerful when applied to ordinary activities and relationships: washing dishes, driving to work, having conversations, paying bills, all as consciousness rather than as a separate person trying to get through life. Start with simple activities. When washing dishes, shift from being a person doing a chore to consciousness experiencing sensation, movement, and perception. When driving, rather than being a stressed person in traffic, recognize yourself as awareness experiencing movement through space. When listening to others, instead of being a person trying to get something from this interaction, rest as consciousness experiencing communication. This mindset shift transforms ordinary life into a laboratory for spiritual recognition. Every activity becomes sacred, not because of what you're doing, but because of who is doing it. Consciousness itself experiencing its own infinite expressions. The mundane becomes profound, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, and daily life becomes a continuous opportunity for awakening. The real breakthrough happens when you apply this recognition to challenging relationships. The coworker who triggers irritation, the family member who pushes your buttons, the stranger who cuts you off in traffic. These moments reveal where person identification still operates automatically, providing perfect opportunities to practice returning to your true position as limitless awareness. Let's explore how to maintain this recognition when facing life's biggest challenges: health crises, financial uncertainty, and emotional trauma, where the rubber truly meets the road in spiritual practice. If you've begun noticing yourself naturally shifting to the witness position during everyday activities, share in the comments. I am consciousness in action. Relationships offer perhaps the most potent laboratory for consciousness recognition, especially those challenging connections that trigger strong emotional reactions. When someone pushes your buttons, criticizes you unfairly, or behaves in ways that spark defensiveness, you're receiving a precious gift. Consciousness is revealing exactly where person identification still operates automatically in your experience. Most spiritual approaches teach us to manage these difficult interactions through techniques like compassion practice, boundary setting, or communication skills. While these have their place, Joel discovered something more fundamental: the opportunity to shift identity entirely in these triggering moments. Instead of being a person defending against attack, you recognize yourself as limitless awareness, observing the entire interaction, including your own reactions, without being defined by any of it. Try this revolutionary approach next time someone irritates you. Silently recognize, I am consciousness itself, aware of irritation arising and passing. This subtle shift transforms everything about the encounter. From the awareness position, you can respond with wisdom and appropriate action without losing your peace or getting entangled in emotional reactions that often make situations worse. The insight behind this approach reveals a profound truth about human conflict. Most relationship struggles stem from two-person identities defending against each other, both forgetting their true nature as consciousness itself. The moment either party shifts to awareness, the entire dynamic transforms, not because the other person changes, but because one participant is no longer playing the same game of attack and defense. This perspective revolution extends to every relationship in your life. Intimate partners, family members, co-workers, even brief encounters with strangers. Each becomes an opportunity to practice recognition rather than reaction, to respond from awareness rather than personality, to embody the truth of what you are rather than defend who you think you should be. The journey through all these practices leads to what Joel called the ultimate secret, the final realization that brings together every aspect of consciousness recognition into a unified understanding. Consciousness is not something you have or use like a tool or resource. Consciousness is what you are at the deepest level of being. Every problem, every limitation, every fear exists only in the mistaken belief that you are something other than pure awareness itself, expressing as individual consciousness. From this recognition flows natural healing, effortless supply, and unshakable peace, not as rewards for spiritual achievement or good behavior, but as the natural expression of your true nature finally recognized and lived authentically. You don't need to become spiritual because you are spirituality itself, individualized. You don't need to find God because consciousness is God expressing as you. You don't need to earn love because you are love, aware of itself. The transformation Joel experienced and taught wasn't about becoming more spiritual through practice and discipline. It was about recognizing the consciousness that had always been present, but was obscured by identification with personality, body, circumstances, and the story of being a separate person. If you're beginning to feel the resonance of this ultimate recognition in your own being, write in the comments, "I am consciousness individualized." As we come to the close of our exploration of Joel Goldsmith's profound final revelations, I hope you've glimpsed the transformative power of this simple yet radical recognition. The journey to discovering your true nature as consciousness itself isn't a linear path with a final destination. It's an ongoing awakening that deepens with each moment of recognition. This understanding has the potential to completely transform how you experience challenges, relationships, and even your own identity. When you recognize that you are not a person trying to become spiritual, but consciousness itself having a human experience, everything shifts. If these insights have touched something deep within you, I'd love to hear about your own journey of recognition. Drop a comment below with consciousness recognized, so I know you've traveled this path with me to the end. Your experiences and insights are valuable not just to me, but to everyone exploring this profound teaching. If you found value in these revelations about your true nature, consider hitting that like button. It helps others discover these transformative teachings that might be exactly what they need in this moment of their journey. For those who want to continue exploring Joel's revolutionary approach to spiritual awakening, I invite you to subscribe. We regularly share these profound yet practical teachings that can transform your experience from the inside out. There's a video right here that explores how to apply these principles specifically to health, challenges, and physical healing. Click and continue with me over there as we dive deeper into the practical application of consciousness recognition in one of life's most challenging arenas. Thank you for your presence and attention, because after all, presence and attention are what you truly are.